Ashes of Creation Alpha 2 is here. And that's kind of good because if Ashes of Creation finally comes online, succeeds, and is a playable game, that's going to be pretty huge. But there are currently a lot of problems with Ashes of Creation.
The time's almost finally upon us. After 3 years since the Ashes of Creation Alpha 1, the game's finally going into its Alpha 2 Phase 1 and will once again be entering the world of Vera. Those of us desperate enough to spend a couple $100 for access, that is. This video will be the quarterly Ashes of Creation recap that I usually do for the casual followers of this MMO, and hopefully the last one for quite some time, as once Alpha 2's here I'll be able to show off the new updates to the game firsthand, rather than having to sift through hours of live streams to break it all down. Just to set some expectations though, I actually reckon Alpha 2 Phase 1 for this game will likely be met with disappointment, as according to Steven, it's going to be a true alpha with lots of bugs.
I mean, anything related to this is going to be met with disappointment. Because at the end of the day, you're literally paying multiple hundreds of bucks to play this. Even if it's an alpha stage, people are not going to care and be pissed about the bugs and whatnot.
It's not going to be until Alpha 2 Phase 3 in May 2025 that the game will have a decent amount of content and feel more like a persistent.
Also, I may be remembering this incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure their schedule has been pushed back multiple times by now.
Early access experience that people are more used to. So don't be too hyped for the tests later this month. I know it's not what you want to hear, but that's the reality. But before we get into the quarterly recap, support the content by listening to today's sponsor, Metaphor.
No. Definitely no.
Starting out with July's development livestream where we got a 2-hour showcase of the Bard. Starting out, we're in the Riverlands where we see a creepy clown looking character and a floating spellbook. This is the Bard. It's explained that we're in a new area of the Riverlands called the Derrigal States, which we've never seen before. It looks nice, basically a farmstead style area with wheat fields. I like the vibe. Quick look at the skill tree. Here it's explained that they've redesigned how skill trees will work for Alpha 2, because
just looking at this instantaneously makes me think they probably may need to redesign this a little bit more. Even though this definitely looks like just class abilities that you can get, it's kind of arguable. You probably need to make it different or better in any case. For example, if we start here and we need to go here, whatever this is, everyone's going to pick it because it most likely is very, very important.
Because the ones shown in the past were way too linear. Now it's a lot more open, more choice, more branches. I like this change. As a bard, you can obviously use different instruments. You can select this in your skill tree. You've got the flute, fiddle, and the drum. These are only cosmetic choices and don't affect gameplay outside of changing the animations and spell effects of your melodies. The bard has 5 different melodies. These are long-channeled casts that can be used whilst moving and in conjunction with other skills. The first one is Cheerful Melody, which provides light healing over time as well as increasing all healing received by your party. Next we have Pensive Melody. This one provides mana regen over time for the party. Epic Melody gives a 20% move speed buff to
Epic Melody. That is so funny for some reason.
the party. Cathartic Melody gives your party members' attacks a 25% chance to heal for 50% of their damage done, which should
Clearly OP.
average out to 13% life leech if in combat. Finally, we have Menacing Melody, which increases damage taken by 10% for nearby enemies.
Well, actually, Peon, it's 12.8% life leech.
It's then explained that in the skill tree, bards can choose to either ramp up their melody's effectiveness over time, or weave 2 melodies at once. Next we've got Flourish. This will be a 2-charge movement ability that can be used whilst casting other abilities. I really like the freedom of movement they're going with for the bard. It looks really fluid, even allowing you to turn whilst in animation. Next up, the 4 dance abilities. Once again, these can all be used whilst moving and whilst casting your melodies. Shielding Dance both heals and puts a shield on nearby allies. Nimble Dance gives a 50% base evasion buff as well as 20% move speed. This stacks with Epic Melody for a potential 40% speed increase. Mesmerizing Dance is basically an AoE CC that incapacitates enemies for 10 seconds and stuns staggered enemies for 3 seconds. At this point, it's also explained that crowd control in Ashes will have diminishing returns, as highlighted by the immunity buff. If you're somewhat familiar with how WoW's crowd control diminishing returns works, then it's basically the same kind of thing in Ashes. Each school
Okay.
of crowd control having its own diminishing returns, so to lock down an enemy for an
This does look a little bit interesting, but I have a feeling they're just gonna run into the problem that World of Warcraft currently is running with invokers, whatever the stupid dragon shit is called, okay? It's the fact that a class that can boost damage on demand, kinda OP. Kinda really OP and kinda the best at supporting by default.
extended period of time, you need to be using different types of crowd control. Finally, for the dance abilities, we have Maddening Dance. This deals AoE damage to enemies, applying something called Humiliated to targets that are demoralized. The TLDR is that there's 4 dance abilities, one for speed, CC, shielding, and damage. Next up, Get Off the Stage, a short-range melee frontal knockback that can also stagger and disarm. Quick Wit is a dual function ability. If you use this on an ally, you'll heal them. If you use it on an enemy, you'll deal damage and demoralize them. Lovely Serenade, a single target channeled heal over time. Anthem of Alacrity speeds up the attack speed and casting speed of an ally for 10 seconds.
Yeah, we got that from the word alacrity. Pretty self-explanatory, not gonna lie.
Chilling Lament, a single target ticking ice damage ability that inflicts chill. Dark Lullaby, a single target channeled DPS ability that can stun incapacitated targets on the final hit. Discordance, a DPS ability that applies stagger and bounces to nearby enemies. Gambit is an emergency heal for party members where you can instantly swap your health for theirs. And finally, we've got the story abilities. Not all of these were shown, but casting one of these abilities will give you a buff. Once you've stacked 3 of these buffs, you can cast a Saga ability, which is basically an ultimate ability for the Bard.
Okay.
Conflict increases party physical power by 10% for 30 seconds. Chaos gives your party magical crit. With 3 buffs stacked, we're then showed the Saga ultimate ability, which has multiple variations depending on the
And it have 6 variations.
combination of buffs stacked. In the example shown, we see the 3 tragedy buff saga called the Apocalypse, which is a very cool big damage, large AoE cone ability. I really like the effect on this one. The final thing showcased is the Bard's basic weapon attack procs with the floating spellbook. These
Okay, honestly, currently I'm kind of liking this. This is pretty decent. Okay. Yeah, I kind of like this, and there's other stuff, obviously, also that hasn't been shown. But currently creating that Bard feel? I don't know, boys, what do you think? I'm kind of thinking this is pretty good, because I haven't seen this before. Since the last Ashes of Creation video we did, I haven't actually looked into it any longer, so this is why I'm kind of interested in this. Okay, currently Bard seems kind of okay. But also, picking the bot will definitely mark you as gay for life, so pick at your own risk.
basic attacks are different depending on which melody is currently active, which I find a really nice touch of flavour. Next, we got about 40 minutes of group gameplay with the Bard in action. And
listen, I want to see the rogue, okay? That's all I care about in my life, okay? I'm simple, man. I just want to stabby people when they least expect it and get mad.
I have to say, I think this might be one of the best design classes Intrepid have made so far. What particularly impressed me is the synergy between different abilities and the sheer freedom of movement the class has. I wasn't planning on being a support class in Ashes, but after seeing how you can use all of your abilities whilst moving, I'm not completely opposed to the idea. A brief art update.
You know what they haven't still done? This is the thing that's gonna kill Ashes of Creations if it comes out and it's gonna stay like this. It's the movement, okay? I don't know, it's been like a year and a half since I have started complaining about this when it comes to Ashes of Creation, but I will continue doing it because it's really important. There has not been a single game that has survived the test of time where your base movement looks bad, painful, and slow. People just are gonna quit those games, okay? It's not likable. And Ashes of Creation, running with some certain weapons looks atrocious, okay? And the run animation for the bot here is also kind of extremely painful.
I wasn't planning on being a support
Look,
class in Ashes, but after seeing how you can use all
yeah, it's super lame. It's really lame. It's like this person is running for the first time in their lives. It's not good.
of your abilities whilst moving, I'm not completely opposed to the idea. A brief art update to end the stream.
Very cool. No one cares.
That was pretty much it for Ashes of Creation in July. Midway through August, we had another live stream, this time dedicated to the details regarding the Alpha 2 roadmap, as well as details on Alpha 2 bundles. Initially, the sale of these Alpha 2 keys actually...
Oh, I remember this one. Very, very pissed people were about this, and for good reason.
caused quite a bit of backlash from the community, as purchasing a key for Alpha 2 initially didn't give you access to the later beta testing phases. Thankfully, Intrepid listened to the community, and now buying access to Alpha 2 does also give you access to beta, along with a month of sub fee when the game's released and $15 of Embers. The main thing that was really hammered home by Steven during this stream was to not buy access for Alpha 2 expecting a quality, playable product. In fact, the way he was talking about Phase 1 specifically sounds like it's going to be a bit of a mess and borderline unplayable. But as Alpha 2 goes on into Phase 2 and Phase 3, the game will have less wipes, have more content, and by Phase 3 in May 2025, it sounds like it will be in a much more playable, consistent state. The real meat and potatoes of this stream, however, was a breakdown of everything each testing phase will contain. Phase 1 seems fairly small with a 55 square kilometer world size, 5 nodes up to level 3, 3 races, 6 class archetypes, 9
The level 4 nodes are still not existent.
weapons, and various systems and content of which there's too much for me to read individually, so feel free to pause here and look at the graphic on screen. Phase 2 then increases the world size, more nodes, more races, more weapons, systems and content, and
The Rogue, finally.
Phase 3, which will run for a very long time and introduce the rest of the content to the game over time. Phase 3 will have 24/7 uptime, and I'd personally expect this to run for at least a year until...
Wait, what does this mean? +2 weapons, or one-handed axe, one-handed sword piece. What?
beta. I know, this game's still a long time from a full release, so don't abandon your current MMOs just yet. Additionally, realms for Alpha 2 will be initially capped at 3k players per realm, eventually increasing to the 8 to 10k range as Alpha 2 progresses. The August development livestream...
Oh yeah, I heard about the dragon thing. People have said that it's really cool, but I did not check it out.
was definitely an epic one, as it showed off a 40-man open-world dragon raid boss, the Firebrand. The stream starts out at a point of interest in the Riverlands called the
A fire dragon. Very innovative. That's a joke, obviously, but still.
Citadel of Steel Bloom. The team are in a full 8-player party. Yes, party size in Ashes is up to 8 players, which is quite a bit different to the standard 5 players that most MMOs go with. They basically make their way through this POI, doing a quest where they have to fight off multiple waves of enemies, ending in a mini-boss. They fight their way deeper inside and eventually have to stop a ritual to claim a relic in the form of a dragon egg. The party leave the POI, and we see this epic shot of a giant dragon swoop down, presumably to reclaim the egg. This dragon is a level 25 boss, so I'd assume that there will be a higher level variation of this, with potentially more mechanics and higher difficulty towards the
I don't know. It doesn't even look like a dragon. It looks more like a demon in my eyes.
endgame. The team then converts the party to a full 40-man raid, and the battle with the dragon begins. The cool thing about this showcase is that throughout the fight we get multiple POVs from different
now it does look like a dragon.
types, so it's actually worth watching the video in full, but here's a brief breakdown of the dragon's mechanics. You've obviously got the basic attacks in the form of frontal cone claw swipes as well as the typical tail swipe. The dragon lifts its front legs up, stomping the ground, dealing raid-wide AoE damage. The dragon lifts its front legs up, unleashing fire, which also causes raid-wide AoE damage and burn damage, which healers can cleanse. The dragon jumps back, ascending into the sky, then flies forward, breathing fire down upon anyone in its path.
That's big
The dragon lets out a roar and 3 flame circles start to appear around him. Each ring of the circle explodes one after the other, so players will need to move back out of one circle, then move back in after it's exploded. The dragon jumps back and does a fire breath attack that focuses the largest group of players in proximity to each other,
Ooh.
dealing massive damage to those standing in front. The dragon drops a living bomb on players, which deals big damage, and after...
Yo, that's a lot of mechanics. This is already unclearable for 95% of World of Warcraft Classic players. That's insane.
a few seconds, spawns big AoE fire circles underneath them. At low health, the dragon flies up in the air and spawns flame elemental adds that, if not killed quickly, he'll absorb and gain a stacking damage buff relative to the number of enemies absorbed. And finally, the dragon flies up in the air and smashes down to the ground, dealing massive AoE damage wherever it lands.
Oh.
Eventually, the team kill the dragon, and the loot consists of...
Okay, well, it depends on how fast the things that the dragon... Well, how fast the dragon uses its abilities, because a lot of these seem to deal really massive damage. But it's almost like the Cyclops battle that we saw. Yeah, it has like 5 mechanics also, but the Cyclops battle, if you remember correctly, I instantaneously pointed it out. It does an ability, it deals damage, the damage is substantial, but then it's like 30 seconds until the next ability happens, so technically there's not really any danger, unless just someone is uniquely undergeared or whatever.
Of a mix of blue gear and epic crafting materials. Overall, by alpha standards, I thought this boss fight was really cool, and there's a decent amount of mechanics for an open world 40-man. I do however think it'd be cool if the dragon spoke to the players, Dragon's Dogma 2 style, or at the very least mentioned that he's angry because one of his eggs was stolen. But that wraps up Ashes of Creation in August. September's dev livestream was a guide to Alpha 2, as well as a preview of the Alpha 2 starting area known as Lionhold. I'll start by playing...
He really seems dead inside, huh? That 1,000-yard stare. Not good, not gonna lie.
The short Guide to Alpha 2 video, as it was quite a nice watch.
Hello adventurer, welcome to Ashes of Creation Alpha 2, where the world of Vera is yours to explore and shape. Ashes of Creation Alpha 2 is an important early testing phase, which will be continually updating. As a participant, your journey will help shape the game's future through providing feedback and hunting down bugs to help us refine the world of Vera. When you first step through the portal, you'll begin your journey across various regions. One of these is the city of Lionhold, a Kalar military outpost.
Get it, Lionhold, because lions are holding it.
It's the launch point for their efforts
Oh god, just kill me now with these run animations!
to reclaim their ancestral home. Here, you'll meet the locals and embark on countless quests and adventures. As you continue your journey through Vera, you'll discover the Citadel of the Steel Bloom. Once the proud headquarters of the Order of the Steel Bloom, now it's abandoned and overrun by mercenary bandits.
Okay?
Treasures, dangers, and untold
Okay, when you make something like, oh, this was the Citadel of the Steam Bloom, or whatever the hell it's called, now it's abandoned and it's run by bandits. I hope that this order doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, otherwise they're literally idiots.
stories await. You may be wondering, how will I travel to all of these places? Don't worry, adventurer. There are so many ways to explore Vera, including a variety of mounts to carry you across vast landscapes, through the dense forest, and over rugged mountains to reach your destinations. Nodes are a major part of our journey, offering you choices that will shape the world. Will you join the node of Winstead, or ally with
And more importantly, taxation.
the city of Miralith? Each decision shapes the world.
Now, the interesting thing about Ashes of Creation is the simple... Also, is this gonna be all of the thing, and she's just speaking? Because, yeah, that's just padding time beyond stop. Okay? The interesting thing about Ashes of Creation is the fact that how large of groups are already forming to play this game on release, because, you know, it seems interesting. I'm definitely gonna try it. And these groups are, some of these groups are literally in the hundreds, and those are the smaller ones. There's literally a lot of groups that have been formed that are in the thousands, but you can't have a guild in the thousands. And a lot of people are going to be pissed about that because that's going to be kind of bad. Because if server's capacity is, like only a couple of thousand people, that means that it's just going to be owned effectively by one mega corporation. And it's going to be, well, the EVE Online problem effectively.
And the node you choose will grow, thrive, and evolve based on your contributions. What are those contributions, you ask? You can help expand your node by trading, crafting, and helping it grow into a...
Oh, what is this?
Changes if needed. A quick overview of the Phase 1 weapons that will have their skill trees implemented: the mace, shortbow, longbow, one-handed sword, two-handed sword, wand and book. Next we get a 35-minute tour of the Lionhold starting area. Some of the NPCs actually have voiceovers, which if I recall wasn't something Intrepid was planning on doing initially.
Yeah, I'll sort of that kind of.
But thanks to AI...
Well, anyway, that was the Lazy Peon. Looks kind of interesting. Still hopeful that this succeeds because I want this game. It would be great. Stabby, stabby in the dark. Get ready, boys. Anyway, bye.